Our primary support trees that we use here are ice cream bean, gliricidia, and monkey pod, of which we're standing under the shade here. Those are all nitrogen-fixing trees that grow really fast, provide woody material, biomass, shade, and improve the soil by fixing nitrogen. We're also using coral tree for that same purpose. That's still in kind of the experimental phase. And we use pigeon pea as more of an understory or brush for nitrogen fixing as well. Not counting the pigeon pea because we have planted them by seed just all over the place by the hundreds. So if you don't count the pigeon pea, the other support trees that we've put in place here, we've planted 129. That does include the Mexican sunflower, which we use as a windbreak for a lot of our fruit trees. And so 129 large plants slash trees have gone into place here with the sole purpose of supporting our long-term food-producing trees. Bananas could be counted as a support tree. A lot of the bananas that we've planted here, we've done so for shade and chop and drop biomass. But some, like this clump here that's more of like a banana circle, we actually do let it fruit and we harvest the fruit. We have several different varieties of banana trees here, including the ladyfinger dwarf apple banana, the candy apple dwarf apple, the standard apple variety that gets fairly large. We have one tree that's close to 30 feet. Well, tree in quotations, bananas aren't really trees. We've got an orange flesh banana that we don't actually know the name of. We've got the Namwa Thai sweet banana. It's one of my favorite. And then we've got a cooking banana. All in all, we've planted roughly 55 single banana trees. So like this clump here only counts as 3 trees, even though I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 actual stalks coming up here. We only count this as 3 because that's what we initially planted. So 55 initially planted banana trees. Here we can see the endemic mamaki tree. Makes an amazing tea. You can see the little berries on there. They're not exactly like fruit berries, but you can throw them in the tea. So we have planted roughly 46 different native or endemic trees or plants here on the property with a decent range of different types. Ohia being probably the most prominent tree species, although we do have some koa as well, which get to be very large overstory trees. It's really important for us to mix in the native plants because we're not only a farm, but we're doing restorative agriculture as well. And we want a balanced ecosystem. We want to feed, nourish the insects, the wildlife, the soil that's here. It's easy to think of the fruit trees as the stars of the show when you're building a food forest. And they really are kind of the first thing on your mind. Thinking about producing food for yourself, your family, for commercial use. And this could be, fruit, could be nuts, could be starches in the case of ulu or breadfruit. It could be vegetable fat, like avocado, such a wide variety. But all these food trees, we tend to think of this being kind of the central focus of what we're doing. But it's really important as we look at this jackfruit tree to see how it's tied into everything. So here we've got the red the tea leaf. There's native fern down there. There's this tithonia blocking the wind, which we use for chop and drop also, linked up to this pigeon pea. Further down there's a banana, and that banana has a lilycoy vine, passion fruit climbing throughout. Little sprigs of belly spinach coming into play here. So behind there, hard to see right now, but there's hoava, which is a native understory tree species. A little bit further back is an ohia, another native. So this area right here is so full of diversity. And you can think of it as all in the service to this jackfruit tree, but it's really about balance. That's how a forest works. You need diversity, you need balance, and it will take care of itself. But as for fruit trees, we've planted so far 101 distinct fruit trees. That does not count the bananas, does not count coconuts. So that's just other than bananas and coconuts, of which we planted quite a bit. Just regular fruit trees. And of those, we have 45 different types of fruit, and then some of those, many different varieties. So we will continue to expand, I think, if I'm calculating correctly. When all's said and done, we've kind of really built out the whole property. We may have as much as, well, we'll at least have 3 times that amount, so roughly 300 fruit trees. We may be able to even stretch that, 350, 400. We will see. Then we've got a category that we'll call Medicinal and Other. So here I'm looking at turmeric, which can certainly be thought of as a food. We sort of think of it as like a food/medicine. As far as medicinal/other plants go, we've planted roughly 35. So that would include things like this turmeric, the ginger, a few other things in the category that, it's sort of hard to just say that it's food, or they're certainly not native. Maybe sugarcane would fall into an example like that as well. So, the things that we have not counted are things like kalo or taro, which we can see some here. We've also not counted pineapple, of which we have well over 100. Pineapple, we don't count the ground covers, even though that's an integral part of what we're doing here. We don't count sweet potatoes or strawberries or comfrey. So quite a few things not counted, but when we look at the total number of trees, shrubs, plants, we didn't count all these red tea leaf that you see in front of me. But when we count, the more substantive, longer lasting, sort of anchor plants here, we're at roughly 370 that we've planted so far in 3 years. Very happy with where we're at this point so far. But we've still got a ways to go, so it's fun to be kind of moving along on this project, but still have all that space out there. Open real estate. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about hours of work. So just try to give you kind of an idea of how much work a project like this takes. So first of all, it's really just me doing the work. I don't have any laborers, no one hired, and that includes pretty much everything. Fencing, even just more like household related things, installing water, irrigation. Like I had to replace the main water line myself. So like it's really just me. I mean, my family helps with certain things, and they certainly help with like the rest of life so that I can spend so much time out here. But as far as like doing the farm labor, it's really me. I'm also a full-time teacher, and so roughly 9 months out of the year, I'm 40 hours plus a week. Actually, quite a bit more than that. Working a full-time job. It is nice to have long breaks, fall break, spring or winter break, spring break, summer, things like that, because I can get a lot of work done in big chunks. But of course, there's a big difference in how many hours of work I put in the summer versus during the school year, of course. And so let's start with something that's pretty consistent throughout the year. I walk this property every day for roughly 30 minutes a day. Pretty much, no question what else is going on, no matter how crazy things are, whether I'm sick, injured, I at least walk the property, get my eyes on everything. So that right there is 30 minutes a day, kind of bare minimum. And, you can kind of question whether that's work. It's not, heavy physical labor, but it takes up time, takes up mental energy. I find it to be relaxing, stimulating, invigorating. And so to me, it doesn't feel at all like work to just walk and observe. But that is so important with any farm, but certainly if you're practicing permaculture, observation is key. And you've got to be able to see it, the same areas over and over, to really understand the flow of things, the patterns, and identify problems before they become irreparable. So that's right off the bat, 30 minutes a day. During my break time, so when I'm not teaching, whether it's winter break, summer break, whatever, I put in a lot of hours of work out here over the last 3 years. So remember, this is the beginning phase, building the food forest, which for me is like a 3 to 5 year period. There's a lot of things that factor into that: size of your property, laborers helping you, mechanical equipment, all that stuff. For me, it's a 3 to 5 year process. We're on a 4-acre property where roughly 3 acres will be transformed from pasture to food forest. So keeping all that in mind, I'm working roughly 6 hours a day, give or take, and usually 6 days a week. So that's in my not full-time time. So during the summer, I've roughly worked 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. There's obviously a shift there. Like some days I may work as much as 12 hours, and other days really hardly at all, just a 30-minute walk around, and we'll go to the beach for the day or something. Obviously I've got to take some time off so that my body can heal up and that I can keep doing this. But it's a lot of work. There's no doubt about it. This initial phase, especially when you're in my situation where we really don't have a lot of equipment, we don't have tractors, we're doing most everything more or less by hand. There's just a lot to be done. And not all of it is backbreaking. Some of it is actually pretty relaxing, to be honest. I find weeding to be kind of relaxing. Even pruning to me is not that bad. Fertilizing, things like that. But anytime we're really building something, starting a new area, maintaining the grass is a huge maintenance thing. It is really hard work. There's no doubt about that. The older you get, the harder it gets too. This is my second food forest. My first one I had almost 10 years. We've been here 3 years. And I think 4 acres for me is probably about the max that I could reasonably handle by myself. During work time, so when I'm really working full time, my schedule kind of varies wildly, but the way I typically do it is I've got my 30 minutes a day walking around. My weekends, I just do what I can. Sometimes my weekends are pretty busy, really 8 hours Saturday, 8 hours Sunday, just trying to catch up on the things that I really couldn't get done during the week. Sometimes that's just watering. If we go through a very dry period, I'm just literally watering all weekend. If I've got, some big project I'm undertaking, I put in a lot of hours on the weekend, and it's tough. I also have a family. We have sports that we go to and all that stuff we got to squeeze in there. And I really don't have a lot of time during the week to get much done. Hawaii's amazing. The weather is, paradise. But one of the downsides is that we don't have daylight savings. And so there's really no period of time in the year where we have a lot of light in the evening. Even in the summer, it's pretty much dark around 7. Like you can't really get much done after that. So when you're working, like I go back to work early August, actually tomorrow, full time. And really for the school year from August till May, I get home and there's not a lot of time to get anything done. Not to mention, helping kids, helping just, dinner, cleaning, getting all that stuff, and then just having a few minutes of downtime before I go to bed and repeat. So I don't get a lot done during the week. That's not easy. But occasionally you really have no choice. You have something that's really important that comes out that, you got to get done. Nature's got its windows and you got to take advantage of that. Otherwise, a lot of the work that you put in before could be just going to waste if you don't follow through. So it's hard sometimes. It can be a hard life. I know a lot of the people I talk to, when they see the scale and scope of what I'm doing, the first words that they say is like, how in the world do you have time for that? So I think a big part of it is that it's got to be something you love, so that it really doesn't feel like work to me. And even though it's hard and I finish a lot of days so sore I can barely stand up, I sleep really well. I feel really good about what I'm doing. I'm really proud of what I've accomplished. And so I would hope that anybody watching sees that as inspiration, especially if you're doing something on a smaller scale. This is really doable. And always be remembering that it's really the first couple years getting things established, and it's going to maintain itself quite a bit. I've got large sections here that I could almost walk away from now, and they would do really well on their own. Maybe 3 or 4 times a year, I'd spend some days pruning, fertilizing. Of course, you got to harvest stuff, get the fruits of your labor. But if I wasn't focused on expansion and constant improvement, I could really kind of chill out now. So I hope that's inspiring and not too daunting to kind of think about all those hours if you're kind of in the planning phases of a food forest or the beginning stages. And I highly recommend getting some things in that you're going to reap the fruits of pretty early, so that you don't feel like you're just working and you're not really getting anything out of it. So if you're in the tropics, get those bananas going, get those other quick herbs and things going that you can get pretty soon. Otherwise, you may get a little discouraged. So I hope you found that useful, interesting. Like I said, 3 years in, still got a couple years to go before we're kind of on a little bit more on that plateau maintenance-wise. But we're so fortunate, so grateful for the opportunity that we've had here. We really appreciate everybody out there watching, kind of sharing our story with us. And as always, just drop us some comments, questions, anything that's on your mind. I'll try to get back to you. And we look forward to being able to continue creating some content as we move forward here. So until next time, aloha from Ina Bear Farm.